In the texture section, you're going to learn how to draw. I'm going to show you 4 different textures. But before we begin, I'm going to show you a few tools that you could use to help you with shading your textures. The easiest thing is if you had at your disposal what is called a tortillon. It's like a blending stick. Okay, but not everybody has one of those just laying around at your house. So I'm going to show you some things that you can use. Obviously, you can use your finger. If you look, mine is all full of pencil from blending. You can also use a Q-tip, or you can make your own blending stick. You just had like a scrap piece of paper. Okay, if I had a scrap piece of paper and I started to just roll it around a pencil, okay, so it ends up being almost like a straw, and then I just sort of bent it and twisted it. So I just get like a little point down there. I can use that to blend with. Okay. I can even use, if your mother lets you, a piece of toilet paper. I know that's rare these days, but I could fold that and use that also to blend with. So I'm going to use a few of those tools when I'm making texture. All right, so texture, we're going to have 4 different areas. So I don't care how you divide this. You can just divide it into sections. Okay, so 4 different sections. In my first section, I'm going to draw wood. Okay, so if you look, my table actually has like a wood grain to it. All right, so how would I get that in a drawing? All right, how I can do that is I can take my section and I can divide it with just vertical lines. This is going to represent the different pieces of wood. Right, whenever you're drawing wood, you're always going to start with a knot. So just a small area where a knot's going to be, and from around that is where all of my lines will tend to come from. They're not perfectly straight. They'll all center around that knot, and then I would do the same thing in the next section. Some lines are thicker together, and then I can make that much darker in between. And they're not always in the same area. Some pieces might even have 2 knots in them. And I would continue doing that. Some knots are much larger than others, some are smaller. Okay. So you're going to fill all of that area in to make it look like wood. Next section, I'm going to put brick. Okay, brick, similar, but only we're going to do rows. So I'm going to divide it by sections with rows. Okay, in brick, if you think about it, brick is like a rectangle. So I'm going to start with rectangle shapes. Okay, and then the next row is actually split half, so it goes halfway here and halfway there. And then these alternate so that they line right up with one another. So that's what brick looks like. But then I can start to sort of round if I wanted it. Like this is the grout in between the brick, and I would do a bunch of dots, thick and thin, to represent texture. Just sort of thicken up. my lines to represent grout. Right, so you would fill the whole area in to make it look like brick. And if I wanted the brick to be each one a little bit different color, I could change the value up. So maybe this one's going to be a little bit darker. That one might be a little bit darker. Okay, so I would change them up a little bit. All right. In the next section, I'm going to make it look like there's little bumps or little warts all over it. So I'm going to draw like little half circles here and there. A little bit of roundness on the bottom. This is where I'm going to use my little shading tools. All right. So I'm going to get it a little bit darker towards the bottom. Okay, really dark where it hits and rests. And then I'm going to get gradation like you did in your value scale, a little bit darker towards the bottom and gradually coming up. And I want it lighter along the top. So if I had my tortillon, I would blend this a little bit like this. So I'm going to show you one with a tortillon. Okay. And I'm going to do the same thing with this one. Only this time I'm going to use my homemade little blending stick. So same thing. Difference is I went a little bit darker with the first one. All right, and then the next one, I'm going to use the toilet paper. So I just folded it up so I got like a corner of it. And I can use that to blend. And then in the next section, okay, I'm going to do grass. In grass, I start at the bottom and I'm going to go upwards. And all I'm going to do is make little teeny lines. So if you make grass, it's thicker at the bottom, okay, thinner at the top. The idea with grass is you usually start towards the back and then work your way forward. Grass doesn't all go in one direction. Some of it curves a little bit. And I can go light pressure for light grass and heavy pressure for darker grass. Okay. Right in there, if we pull it away, it's going to be 4 different textures that you're going to fill your area with.